Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said he's not a big social media guy. This comes after he launched his 2024 presidential campaign on Twitter this week, and that went so well. Congratulations, Ron. Here's what he said about that Twitter launch.
I think given what Elon and Twitter represent to conservatives, given how we've been censored, I was censored as governor with Jay Bhattacharya during COVID by Google and YouTube. So the fact that Elon bought that and has opened it up, that's been really significant, because you can't have a society in which government's colluding with these massive companies to try to stifle dissent. We saw it with the Hunter Biden video that they censored. We saw it during COVID with all the things they censored. And so I think part of it was social media. I'm actually not a big social media guy. I would rather watch you than be on some app. But it is important for a lot of people. But then just the free speech component, and how really this is an example of conservatives having a voice again and fighting back against the entrenched legacy media.
The governor also had this to say about the Twitter announcement.
Can you just tell us how that whole idea of going on Twitter first to announce your candidacy came about?
Well, they were very confident that they had the ability to get a lot of people, and they were anticipating a lot of people, but there were more people that tried to sign up than even what Twitter had anticipated. I was just in a room in Florida, so I didn't really know necessarily what was going on. And so I think it had to do with Elon's account. They called an audible, and then they were able to get it done. But I think what happened with it was, because Elon was involved, Twitter was involved, we got way more play about it than we would have if I just would have given a speech.
It's just he's so popular. So many people were watching that the internet broke. They were overwhelmed. Got it.
This was such an unforced error. It was so easily avoidable. Anyone who has used Twitter Spaces can tell you that they are notoriously unreliable. There's tons of glitches all the time, and trying to do it with 50 people is sometimes a problem, let alone the 700,000 that initially logged on to listen to Ron DeSantis. And if his concern was that he didn't want to give airtime to the legacy media, or he was afraid that the legacy media was going to censor him, he could have done an interview like he just did with Erica Bowling or anybody else on Newsmax, One America News, Real America's Voice, News Nation, any of these alternative platforms. But just the Twitter thing, it seems to me it was like an attempt to just court Elon Musk and get him on board with the campaign, which is pretty transparently because he's this massive billionaire who could fund him as Peter Thiel does for candidates all the time. And the whole decision-making process to me just seemed pretty ill-advised, I guess.
Yeah, I don't want to give the DeSantis camp any good ideas, but that came off as so unlikable, just backpedaling, just like, I'm not a big social media guy. I would have rather do it on here, but I like what Elon did with Twitter. I should be honorable for doing this on Twitter because I was supporting this conservative, friendly now news app. It's like, if he just said, it went bad, it did not go well, it didn't go as planned, that would be so much more relatable and likable than, well, we had a lot of traffic and I'm not even a big media guy. It's just like, be honest for once. Just like accept that things didn't go well as planned.
Yeah, self-deprecation can be a really effective way to get people to like you and to relate to you. And that would have been, I think, much more compelling to people who all saw this for the kind of failure that it was, than trying to give this half-hearted apology / well, I wasn't really involved in it. It was Elon Musk's account. That's not, by the way, currying much favor with Elon than it would be to just say, yeah, it didn't work so well. Okay, you're basically offloading responsibility to his team. How do you think he feels that you're not taking any responsibility for this either? It's also contrived and kind of calculated. And we've talked about this before. I think one of DeSantis's biggest problems heading into this race is just his lack of charisma and his inability to kind of speak off the cuff in a way where he just sounds like a normal, cool person.
Yeah. Not a likable guy. He could have said, well, what's important is that I'm running for president. And now it didn't go well, didn't go as planned, but I am running. And I think this speaks to how fragile his ego is and Donald Trump's ego is. Because just him running for office meant Trump had his whole team working on making some AI video, which was a funny video. But they're so obsessed with their public presence that it's getting in the way of their actual political career. Because if Ron DeSantis thought for a few seconds, and of course, I'm saying this with the premise that he has some sense of what makes a human being likable, which maybe he doesn't. But if he thought about it and said, all right, how can I come out of this ahead in some way? How can I do this interview on television and say, you know, some things went wrong, but I'm really grateful I had the platform, and what's important is I'm running for president, and now I can tell all of you now. Like, yeah, that's easy.
He also could have taken this line of attack and this joke away from Trump by pointing out the fact that everyone already knew he was running for president anyway, so it's not a huge deal that the Twitter platform crashed when he was trying to do the space. He could have said something like, well, it's no secret to anybody that I'm running for president, so hopefully anyone who missed out on the Twitter space was not caught flat-footed by the fact that I was announcing today. Because Trump, his team, of course, was trying to file this lawsuit against DeSantis for basically running a shadow campaign when he was serving as governor before Florida got rid of that resign to run law, or at least made an amendment to it so that he was able to run for president. So he could have taken the wind out of the sails of that entire attack line from Trump by just making a joke about how everybody knew he was running and, you know, kind of making light of the situation.
Yeah, when people say Donald Trump has broken our politics and how elections go in the country and how campaigning happens, what they really mean is the rules of the game that were outlined about how you talk, how you act, have been broken by somebody, and that's the only training everybody else ever had. So now they have to learn, how do I be a real and relatable human being, because I'm running against this guy who will say and do anything and actually knows how to connect with the public. Now DeSantis is in a tough spot because everybody looks like a robot comparatively. When you think about how people in United States elections who are candidates act, they don't act like normal human beings. There's a whole script you have about how you act. You shake the hands, you kiss the babies. It's a performance, really. Yeah. They're actors. And that's why Reagan was so effective, because he was an actor and he could step right into that. But I think now that you have to be a real person, Trump has the upper hand. Anybody who can do that has the upper hand. Bernie has the upper hand, and populism's on the rise in the country. DeSantis being who he is, on top of announcing with the richest man in the world, not very relatable.
Yeah, it just seems like politics in general is filled with sociopathic weirdos.
Yeah.
And even some of the more relatable people still kind of have that trait. I think to run for office, you have to have at least a smidgen of sociopathy. But I mean, Trump has just been an entertainer for so long that he knows how to capture people's attention. And when he was in the White House, I mean, putting the candy on the Minions' head when the kids came to trick or treat, and he's like tossing the paper towels like he's Kobe Bryant at the hurricane relief.
He's also not a normal guy.
No, he's not normal, but it's like, okay, like that's what a non-politician might do in those situations. He's still very inventive. Like, I don't think I would have thought to shout Kobe while I was throwing a paper towel at a hurricane relief victim. But at the same time, it's, you know, that kind of natural sort of charisma and ability to connect with people, make people laugh, brings a lot of light to situations that I think is really needed in politics. And that's why people enjoyed it so much, because everyone takes themselves so seriously. And Bernie's like that too. Another person, Rand Paul, is actually pretty good at not being a scripted politician. And the example that I'll give is when he was running in 2016, he was on this live stream and he was getting questions from viewers. And at one point, I guess he didn't realize the live stream was still going. And someone asked him if he was still running for president. And he was like, yeah, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this dumb live stream with just like total disdain for the process. And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it reminds me of Mike Pence in Iowa, where they're like, so you're running for president? And instead of saying yes, he just said, well, I'm in Iowa, which is like, okay, I'm sure the Iowans really loved that from you, Pence. But yeah, a lot of the candidates being more honest is good, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone should try that.
It might be better for our country.
Yeah, we've got more rising after this.